Let's go to the viewer mailbag. I'm working my way through many of the videos in your archive. I'm not sure if you've done something like this yet, but I'd love to see a top roads that should just be depaved soul style. I've actually had a lot of suggestions for this type of thing, so today I'm just gonna go with it. And if you don't understand the reference, in 2005, the Seoul city government decommissioned a downtown expressway, daylighted the stream that had been paved over, and converted the whole thing into a linear park that's been immensely popular. I haven't been there, but Jason has. You should go check out his video. So there are two main aspects to this. One, if you're new here, I've made videos that talk about all the horrendous health and livability impacts of freeways in the urban environment. And if you don't want to go back and watch, here's a cheat sheet. And two, it's the space they take up in some of the most valuable places in our cities, so it's a huge opportunity cost. And I'm going to recommend this paper from late 2024, which did the math and found that the average cost of expanding urban roadways exceeded the benefits by a factor of nearly 3. And I'd take that logic even further. The arguments for not expanding existing roadways are also great arguments for reducing their footprint or removing them altogether. And it's something we should be thinking about seriously in this particular moment when so many of our freeways that were built in the mid 20th century are nearing the end of their functional lives. I'm not going to do a big methodology piece here because it's boring. I'll just tell you the things I considered while we look at I-94 in the Twin Cities, which didn't make the list but should be decommissioned all the same. Population density adjacent to the freeway, how wide the footprint is, what the adjacent prevailing land values are, how damaging it is to connectivity from one side to the other, whether the metro area in general is over-provisioned on freeway lane miles. An important one, just redundancy. Like, if you decommissioned a particular freeway, are there obvious alternate routes drivers could take? And then just the eye test, does it flat out look like it doesn't belong? Okay, that should be sufficient to get us off and running, so let's get into it. I've got a dirty dozen freeway segments and I'm going to number them, but I wouldn't get too fixated on that. They could easily be in just about any order. I'm starting with DuSable Lakeshore Drive in Chicago, just all of it. If you watched my video a couple weeks ago, you know the frontage of Lakeshore Drive is some of the densest residential land in this whole country, and it's some of the most valuable. When you really think about all the other ways this land could be used for the benefit of everyone and not just drivers, it's just mind-boggling. 11. Fair warning, I'm going to do some very arbitrary stuff here. I was going to focus on a smaller segment of I-5 in Seattle, but really, I just want the whole thing gone. In fact, we can just take I-405, which runs parallel through the east side suburbs, change all the signs to I-5, and then convert the entire I-5 right-of-way through Snohomish and King County into, I don't know, parks and high-rise residential development. Trust me, it's going to make the link station areas way more productive, and just imagine how you could knit downtown back together with Capitol Hill and First Hill. Slam dunk. 10. San Diego. I'm tempted to do the exact same thing and just change all the signs on I-805 to I-5, and then completely delete I-5 through San Diego County. And I know someone's going to say, you can't just do that, they're interstates. But yeah, exactly. It's called the interstate highway system, not the intercity system. Stuff like this just doesn't belong anywhere near the densest part of our central cities. But I will make a more modest proposal for San Diego. Just decommission State Route 94 between I-5 and I-805. It's a pretty redundant segment. It takes up a lot of space. It's a huge noxious barrier between Golden Hill and Grant Hill, two great close-in urban neighborhoods. Fill it in with a greenway and some dense housing and you're done. 9. Portland, also tempted to rip out all of I-5 here and just redesignate 205. But for most of this list, I'm going to try to be more targeted. One thing is, having a freeway loop wrapped around your downtown like a tourniquet is an idea only the worst kind of traffic engineer could love. So I propose we start dismantling it, and the way I want to start is by deleting I-5 from I-84 to the I-405 junction down in South Waterfront. Other parts of the loop, like I-405 downtown, are also bad, but quite a bit less disruptive to the urban fabric and less aesthetically offensive. The Central East Side has so much potential, and reconnecting everything to the waterfront would open up a ton of development possibilities. 8 Phoenix also has a freeway box encircling downtown, and I kind of want to just take the whole thing out, but it's Phoenix. So let's focus on the most egregious part, I-10 along the north side of the box. If you're continuing east on I-10, you have multiple route options, and I-10, as it exists, drives a wedge between what are really the best parts of the city, Midtown and downtown. And you might say, well, the noise and the connectivity aren't that bad because part of I-10 is lidded, with Hance Park over the top. But here's what I think about freeway lids. They're a bald admission by your state DOT that they screwed up and built something that is not compatible with the urban environment. So this is candidate 1 for depaving in the Valley of the Sun. 7 Miami. This is an odd one. The freeways in South Florida are definitely offensive, but it's hard to say any one segment is redundant. The real estate in close to downtown is dense and expensive, though, and some of the most valuable land is covered in a spaghetti of long freeway ramps coming off I-95. Feels unnecessary. In fact, guidance from the FHWA calls for urban interchange spacing of at least a mile for safety and operational reasons, and the next interchange south in Brickell is like half that distance. I'm gonna say deconstruct the interchange and just build more walkable stuff connecting downtown to Brickell. Driving here is terrible. Why encourage it? 6 New York, an interesting one because in some ways every freeway here is the worst because the land is so dense and so valuable, and having freeways anywhere is hugely damaging and a massive opportunity cost. But at the same time, the region already has one of the lowest lane mile per capita numbers anywhere in the US, not for lack of effort on the part of planners and engineers of decades past to do the opposite. So it is complicated, but I had to put the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway here. It's not as aesthetically awful as most of the other stuff on this list, but it runs through some of the most desirable neighborhoods in the whole country. Carroll Gardens, Cobble Hill, Brooklyn Heights, downtown Brooklyn, Fort Greene, Williamsburg, Greenpoint. And I'll cut this at I-495, but you could certainly take it further. You know, one criticism you might have of this list is I didn't really use an equity lens, and maybe I should be talking about the Cross Bronx Expressway instead. But the BQE and the land adjacent to it are so valuable, redevelopment could generate a massive new tax increment and maybe new opportunity sites for amenities that benefit everyone. Plus, parts of the BQE are literally crumbling, so this is the opportunity of a lifetime. While we're on the topic of New York, the pre-sale for my event at Hunter College on April 24th is now live and will be for the next week. It's going to be a fun event. I'll have Betsy Plum from the Riders Alliance and Tiffany Ann Taylor from the Regional Plan Association, so we can talk all things New York. I'm going to kick the event off with a live walkthrough of a work in progress, which is something I've kind of wanted to do at one of these events for a while, and Hunter College was highly supportive. I'll definitely have a New York specific top 10 list as well, so it's going to be a ton of fun, and I hope to see a lot of you out there. Back to the list, number 5 is in the Bay Area, but not San Francisco, which has done a decent job of ripping out the worst offenders. Let's go to Oakland instead because I-980 through the central part of the city really hits all the criteria. It's about as redundant as anything on this list. It's a 500-foot wide right-of-way at the most valuable spot in this segment, and that's about 2 city blocks in a lot of places. There's multifamily residential right up against it, just hideous on every level, and Oakland deserves so much better. For Nashville, Tennessee, the metro area with the most freeway lane miles per capita according to federal highways, 1.29 miles of freeway lane for every 1,000 people. That means you could fit every person in greater Nashville end to end, even if the average height of Nashvillians was like 6'10". Way too much freeway, and of course it has a downtown freeway loop, so we're going to take out what I think is the most offensive piece, I-40 on the west edge. Downtown Nashville is a tourist mecca, and there's a whole grid you can restore, reconnecting Music Row to the rest of downtown. 3, Charlotte, North Carolina, also a majestic freeway moat cutting off the central city from the adjacent neighborhoods. I guess my first inclination is rip out all downtown freeway loops everywhere, but I'm trying to be a little more judicious. It's really this segment of I-277 on the south side that's super offensive. Not just the fact that it cuts uptown off from the south end. Those are both vibrant, densifying areas in their own right, and reconnecting the grid between them would have massive benefits. But the actual design of 277 itself, who puts loop ramps in the middle of their city? This is the type of freeway you design when you can't imagine people wanting to live anywhere in the vicinity. And it dates from the 1970s when Charlotte was not a big league city. The entire metro area had a population under 500,000. Well, Charlotte's getting up close to 3 million now. It's light years more cosmopolitan than what it was 50 years ago. It just needs a transportation system that's consistent with what the city is becoming. 2, you had to know Kansas City was going to show up here. Freeway box right around downtown, check. It was actually tough to figure out which side should be depaved first, but I'm going north. We're going to consider this segment of I-70 redundant, we're going to dismantle it, and we're going to restore the grid and stitch downtown back together with the city market area. KC, second most lane miles per capita after Nashville, and this particular freeway, kind of like I-277 in Charlotte, just atrociously wasteful of what should be some fairly valuable space. Lots of surface parking here today, but to be fair, who would want to develop anything next to this monstrosity? Replace it with a linear park and some new developable parcels, and use some of the tax increment to expand KC streetcar and other transit service. Before I give you number 1, I gotta address Los Angeles because it is not number 1 or anywhere on this list, just because there wasn't any one freeway that really checked all the boxes quite right. Honestly, the whole loop around downtown is pretty miserable, but if I had to pick, I'd go with US 101 between the Valley and downtown. It's pretty redundant. I mean, it basically does what I-5 does, just on a bit of a different alignment. The footprint is pretty narrow compared to other entries on this list, but it does slash through lots of great neighborhoods, so dismantling this one is probably where I'd start. Instead, my number 1 is in St. Louis. No state went crazier on building urban freeways than Missouri. Someone should write a whole book about this. Just look at all the interstates that converge on downtown St. Louis. I just can't imagine what they were thinking. I mean, I-44 and I-64 are parallel and less than a mile apart. What I've left unsaid through this whole video, the design of a regional freeway network like this is extremely consistent with redlining, white flight, and the hollowing out of what for a long time was America's 4th largest city, behind New York, Chicago, and Philadelphia. Anyway, we're going to try to make amends by deleting I-64, a freeway that's not only redundant, but absolutely desecrates the south side of one of the country's great urban green spaces, Forest Park. I mean, they put these geometrically atrocious single-point urban interchanges right in the park, and then miles of bulldozed city blocks in the central West End and Midtown, legitimately fantastic neighborhoods otherwise. It's absolutely horrifying what they did to this great city. I cannot believe I still haven't been to St. Louis since I started this channel, but I promise I'm gonna rectify that eventually. You might have noticed that when I visit cities, I pretty much limit myself to wherever I can get by walking, biking, and public transit. This is consistent with my belief that if the only way you can get somewhere is to drive, then it probably isn't worth going to in the first place. So if you're on the same wavelength as me, I've got a content recommendation I think you're gonna love. The new show Day Pass from Not Just Bikes creator and friend of the channel, Jason Slaughter. The whole idea behind the show is in the title itself. Jason visits the city and rides all the transit he can from dusk to dawn for the price of a one-day transit pass. In episode 1, he goes to the city of Nantes in France, birthplace of the original omnibus, and explores the city while trying to ride every rail, BRT, and water taxi line in the city. Does he succeed? I'll leave you in suspense. Day Pass is exclusive to the Nebula platform, and it's just the latest example of how Nebula raises the bar for all of its creators. Jason does amazing stuff on his own channel, but teaming up with Nebula Studios on Day Pass means opening up a world where you can join him on an adventure and live your transit dreams vicariously. And Nebula has all kinds of creators who will scratch your itch for urban planning and engineering, but you'll find great creators in all kinds of different spaces, whether it's culture, science, comedy, or current events. Being part of the Nebula community of creators has been huge in terms of growing my channel and connecting with new audiences. So when you subscribe, yes, it means you get my content early and ad-free, but also subscribing really helps support what I do in a structural way. And it's also an investment in continuing to make the Nebula streaming experience itself better and better. Because yes, Nebula is kind of like Netflix for people who are a little too into trains, but it goes a lot deeper. It's a home base for content that's a little more thoughtful, that's created by humans for humans, which I think is more important than ever. And there's a pretty big idea behind all of it: raising the level of the entire platform and growing it into a prestige streaming service. So if you use my custom link down the description or the QR code right here on screen, you're gonna get the best deal. All the Nebula content for 50% off the regular price when you sign up for an annual subscription, or you can do a lifetime subscription. Regular price is currently $500, but with my creator link, it's just $300. You pay once and you get Nebula for as long as both you and Nebula exist. Nebula subscribers also get guest passes, one every month or 3 per quarter if you're on annual or lifetime. Once active, guests can binge all the Nebula content they want for a week and no payment info is required. So signing up for Nebula really is a fantastic way to demonstrate your support for a one-of-a-kind, creator-owned platform and to fund the continued production of amazing exclusives, and there's great new stuff hitting the platform all the time. So my recommendation, use my link or the QR code right here to get Nebula for 50% off the annual price, or just $300 for the lifetime deal. It's nebula.tv/CityNerd, and then check out Jason Slaughter's Day Pass in Nantes right now. And that's all I've got. Thanks for joining today, and thanks as always to the patrons for your direct support, which makes this channel function more like a legitimate vocation. And thanks to the Nebula subscribers too. Keep the great topic suggestions coming. I'll be back with a new video in a couple weeks, and I'll see you then.